Yes, there we go. Okay, we're in business. All right, so I guess let's just go um, kind of top down here. So layout is probably like the broadest. I haven't installed Tailwind yet. I'm going to get to that later. We could actually do a lot without Tailwind. Um, all right, so logo image URL, so layout, I guess at a high level is things that are going to change the total HTML DOM here, whereas the other props will kind of change CSS. So social button placement, by default, you can see they're at the top. We can switch them to the bottom, and that changes the actual HTML structure. And I think the other ones here, like logo placement, same thing. You could, hide it completely. You can move it outside. And these are actually changing the result in HTML. We give a few options here. I'm sure over time this will kind of expand a bit. But the general idea is just like we recognize that there's some things that people want to add. And so we try to support them. Oh, last thing I guess is the social buttons variant. So see how we have that long string of text? We could switch it to icon buttons, and then you can kind of style those however you want. I guess I'll keep like icon buttons on for now, and let's start looking at variables. And so the general idea of variables is like broad strokes, like what are some things that are going to impact everything that you're seeing here just to change the look and feel, but it's probably not going to get you to a perfect match. In a lot of cases, like unless you're super strict about your branding, um, variables will be enough. And so we can, uh, we could change the primary color to, I don't know, what's like a good hex color. I am going to pull a color from Tailwind. Let's steal an orange here. I have the hash. When I didn't have the hash, I threw an error. But yeah, so now that's just styling that. I guess another thing to like kind of call out right away is that Clerk inherits. Um, oh yeah, it is applicable in general, and I'll even go through kind of other ways. Um, I'm going to go through ways to style it without Tailwind. So right now we're doing everything here hasn't touched Tailwind yet. And I can take this pretty far without touching Tailwind. I think, really 90% of the work is the foundations here. And then the last 10% was like, okay, does it support Tailwind? Does it support Chakra? And we have it following Tailwind or working with Tailwind, but we still need to do extra work for Chakra. And yeah, I'll get into, I suppose, exactly why. It's kind of a very foundational architecture decision that we need to adjust to get Chakra working. Can we change the background color? Yes, we can. So let's pick like I don't know, like a 333. Why not? Very unexpected. Let's pick a more exciting. Like if we want to switch this to dark mode, I think is what you're getting at. Let's pick a cool slate color here. All right. Now, I guess as part of switching to dark mode, you could tell there's like just not enough contrast yet. So what can we do to get more contrast? We have this color alpha shade, and it's it's probably a little like our most confusing prop. It's there to help with this specific challenge, and yeah. So this, I guess I'm not sure if you can see completely, but when this switches to white, so currently it's white. See how much contrast there is on this border? If I switch it to black, a lot of that contrast goes away. And so basically, we have these things that these borders are just like now it's white with like opacity set to 20%. And this, we can switch it to red with opacity set to 20% or black with opacity set to 20%. For dark mode, you normally just want white with opacity set to 20%, and that helps all the shading. And then, yes, I can also change the other text. What is it going to be though? Oh, color text on primary background. And then there's also color text on the regular background. So color text on the regular background is probably actually what we want. So we can set that to FFF. And then so color text on primary is going to be this white on the orange. I think that looks fine. But yeah, now we're kind of at the point where besides the logo, you know, we're pretty close to dark mode here. So yeah, other things you can do here are just like border radius, set it to 0. Now everything's square. And this, you know, goes a really long way with broad strokes. I think, you know, if you're aiming for a perfect match, also I don't like 0 border radius, so I'm going to switch this to something bigger. Oops. If you're going for a perfect match, you likely need to change some elements too. And that's where you can really adjust like every div that we put on the page and change its style. So let me just, I'm going to switch this to a bottom drawer, I guess. I'm going to pop it out. That's not the right button. That's not the right button either. Where'd it go? All right. So let's say I want to put, I don't know, a orange border on this card. So we've got the slate, then it goes to this orange, and I want to put a border on the whole thing. So if you kind of inspect the elements, you see, okay, there's CL card here. And these things before the lock sign, they don't actually have styles applied to them, but they give you class names that you could target, and you can actually target them in a couple ways. The first is going to your global CSS file. And so I don't think many React developers do this. This is actually an option we have on our current components, and no one really likes it. But if you wanted, you can come here, you can go to CL card, and you can say border 2 pixels solid. And then we can grab that same orange. And then it's going to apply here. The other way to do it, or I guess one other way to do it, is we can delete this here. So we're back with no border. we can apply it through the appearance prop. And so there's card. Okay, you can see everything we have that you can hit. But on card, you can actually pass this like a JS or a CSS and JS prop. So if I do border, I could do the same 2 pixel solid, paste in my color. And that's doing the exact same thing. If you kind of look at how it's applied, the style you added got added to this internal class name. And we can do this to basically every single element on the page. And I think it's really cool. I think, here, what else should we try? We can put some borders on, or some shadows on these. So here, see how form button primary. So form button fit within my CSS. All right, let's change font. I am going to go change the font next. Form button primary. I want a box shadow. Get a box shadow. Everyone uses Stack Overflow, even me. No one's immune. Huh. That's a weird box shadow. I don't know why they do that. Let's add some blur to it. Add a lot more blur to it. Because why are they going like 13 pixels off? Anyway. There, now we have a weird white box shadow on it. We can do the same for the field here. So this is form field input. Oops. We'll just take the same box shadow. It's going to look a little funnier because this I don't think has a border on it. So we might need to add a border too. And I'll go 1 pixel solid. I'm not exactly trying to make anything pretty here, but should be somewhat legible. Cool. This is very ugly. My designer would be embarrassed. Sorry, Cooper. Let's try changing the box shadow to like something with a little more tint in it. I don't think this is going to work, but I'm having fun. It's this that I wanted to change. Yeah, all right. That's cool. I think I also want to change the background color on this input to one of these other slate tints. I'll take the 200 just so it's not so high contrast. And then we're going to go to fonts, I promise. Cool. Yeah. Does the trick. I'm not a designer, but it's getting the point across. Oh, the globals.css comes by default with Next.js. This was a brand new, fresh application. Oh, I guess one thing I should do too, I should show that it works with CSS modules. So if you use CSS modules, so we've done kind of the inline CSS and JS like this, but then it also works with CSS modules. So let me just save this as sign in. And then I'm going to delete everything here. And let's say I just want to take this whole definition, turn it into CSS format. So I'm going to make this a class. I can call it like custom form field input. It doesn't actually matter what the name is. And we got to switch these to the right casing. And now if I come here and I go, import sign-in styles from, what is it? Styles / signin.module.css. Then I should be able to come here and do sign-in styles that custom form field input. And I guess I wasn't expecting it to change because we didn't change anything in the style here, but I should be able to show that, yeah, see how the shadow moved when I did that? Here, I'll switch it to red. Yeah, so now we're using CSS modules to style it. And kind of, so if you're using Create React App, you need to pass front-end API and navigate. For Next.js, we kind of handle that for people. So it just depends on what you have, like what framework you're using. We basically try to make Clerk Provider as easy as possible, depending on if the framework lets us, I'd say. All right, we asked about fonts. So the thing we did with fonts is we actually made it inherit whatever font you have set. And that goes beyond just the font family. But like, as an example, if I added serif to the top of the font stack, everything changes to a serif font. The other big thing that we take from kind of the HTML tag is font size. So this whole thing is spacing is based off of rens, which is inherited from the font size on the body. So if I were to make this smaller, everything will shrink. And if I make it bigger, everything grows. I think the default is 14. It might actually be 16. So yeah, so the default's 16 for Next.js, but really whatever you have, we're going to pull off of it.
Yeah, so we just created this thing called, we're calling the Clerk Playground. It's playground.clerk.app. I will drop this in the chat. So basically, we're kind of using this as a way to just show off different custom flows. A lot of times we'll get support questions around how to build a custom sign up with magic link flow or sign up with passcode, sign up with social. So the playground itself, along with the associated Git repo, and I'll also put the link for that in the chat. Will kind of hopefully help folks figure out building some of these custom flows. And so I can just kind of show off kind of how this works, right? So for example, if I wanted to create a new account and I'll sign up with email, let's just use a new one that I haven't used yet, send email code. Then I'm gonna check email. I got a verification code, and I'm just gonna sign in here. And so now I'm signed in, you can see, and then we have a bunch of different options that we're showing off here. So we're showing off a way to be able to set passwords. So right now there's not a password set on my account, but I can set one. So I could either set a simple password, which would just be a minimum of 8 characters, and I could set that. Or you can implement a more complex password requirements where it has to actually meet certain requirements, has to have capital letters, uppercase, special characters, that kind of thing. So I can make it so that there's a super complex password that you have to set, and then just have to set that on my account. Some other things you can do is to be able to connect it to your different OAuth providers. Another thing would be to enable MFA and get SMS. Also, we show like a reset password, which would be used for a forgot password flow on the front end. And we actually also do show this off if you're in the signed out state and you have your forgot password. We've implemented a forgot password flow here. So similarly, I can fill this in. And so if using the same account and I click there, password reset link has been sent to my email. So now I go back to my email, check this out. I got a magic link that's got me logged back in. And so now I would be able to change the password to something that I should remember. Other thing we're showing off here is the different types of metadata. And so we're showing off how, there's private metadata, public and unsafe. In this example, we're just using unsafe metadata to select your birthday. So that's something you could do to I'll just say my birthday is today. Why not? Submit. And so then we're saving this to the user. So even then, if you leave and come back, that date is now associated with your account and your metadata, so that is available for your application. Other things you could do is also just start setting things. You can set your name. So you can start setting your name, and you can see that our account thing kind of live updates as we fill in the different name fields here. I could also choose image. I'll upload my InShot here. And so the power is not only in showing off the functionality, but in also the associated code, so that folks can go through here and be like, okay, so I want to be able to see kind of how we built, this, user profile section, and kind of look at the code examples. So right now we only have it in JavaScript, but eventually we are going to do a TypeScript version of these as well, for those of you that love static types. Another cool thing that we recently just added to this is this SDK Explorer. So this is something that allows us to just kind of play with some of the different properties that come from the Clerk SDK. So I'm able to get hey, the session ID, I can get the user information and see that. And you can also set things so as you see, my name here is Ian, but I could also just play around and say my name is Bob, and click Clerk User Update. That sends a request, updates it. So now my name is Bob. You can see that that's updated here. And in addition, I can also set additional metadata. You can call the session get token. And you can see the default session token that comes back. And we even put in functionality to decode the JWT, so you can actually see what the JWT actually is. And yeah, so we're hoping eventually to kind of expand upon this and add some different methods and things like that, but at least it kind of gives you a good idea of some of the methods and things that are available, from the Clerk SDK.